Why, it's Fred Flintstone and his lovely wife, Wilma. Oh, and this must be little Pebbles. Mind if I come in? I brought chocolates.
Yabba dabba doo!
What we do here is go back.
Check it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, YouTubers and subscribers of all ages and everyone in between, welcome to the fourth and hopefully final installment of every Cartoon Network movie review. But before we begin, if I could be honest here, when I started this series, I never expected these videos to become so well received by both viewers and other fellow content creators. Before I uploaded part 1, my channel was experiencing a large dip in views for every other video I posted. So needless to say, I wasn't expecting the large amount of support for this series that it received. And to all those people, for every single one of you who liked, commented, watched, retweeted, and liked on Twitter, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. As much as I say it, it really means a lot to me. With that said, welcome to every Cartoon Network movie review, a series of videos covering and reviewing every film from the always beloved Cartoon Network. We all know that throughout the years, Cartoon Network has been a revolutionary player in the animation game, and I've decided to handle the task of reviewing each and every one of their animated films. Now, I've already done 3 of these before, so if you're interested, go check them out in the description down below. A few rules before we begin. 1. I won't be covering any of the live action films produced by the network, such as Level Up, Ben 10, Alien Swarm, or Reanimated. And I will be doing this series with the goal of covering each and every one of them by order of release. With all that said, sit back, grab some snacks, get comfy, and let's get on with every Cartoon Network movie reviewed.
After all the hotness I've brought to the world, you'd think the world would want to give something back.
Now, out of all the movies in CN's library, I never expected there to be one starring Johnny Bravo of all people. Don't get me wrong, I loved his show, but you have to keep in mind that this movie came out in 2011. At this point, there hasn't been a single piece of Johnny Bravo related media for over a decade. But it turns out that the old macho superstar wannabe was quite popular in the country of India. So in collaboration with Cartoon Network Asia, premiered Johnny Bravo Goes to Bollywood. Does this movie have any value to it, or are we just blinded by nostalgia? Let's find out. The movie focuses on our always lovable superstar wannabe macho protagonist, Johnny Bravo, who at this point has remained a has-been for many years. So he sets out on a journey of superstardom in India. While there, Johnny meets 2 young girls who manage to get him noticed by way of a magic hair gel. After that, he gets into tons of movies, even up to a point where he replaces Bollywood's biggest star, Jiggy. But little did he know that a large group of thugs were sent to take down anyone who's considered Bollywood's biggest star. After Johnny and Jiggy find out, they team up to bring the group of thugs to justice. The movie ends with Johnny saying goodbye to the new friends he's made along his journey and returning home. This, out of all the movies I've covered in this series, contains a premise that by all accounts shouldn't work, but it somehow manages to be entertaining throughout its runtime, with all the Bollywood-centric tropes and stereotypes that all people love to see. On the plus side, the movie at least does its best to replicate the animations and sound effects of the original series, and as an extra bonus, the studio even managed to bring back the actors for both Johnny and Mama Bravo.
You rang. I mean, you rang?
So it still has a large helping of charm. No Sally, Carl, or Pops, however, but to me, at least that's fine. Even though it may have an absurd plot for a Cartoon Network movie, I'm still glad I covered it. It was just too entertaining to turn down.
We gotta go.
We gotta go.
We're going. Skips, wanna help save the universe?
I'm in.
Muscle Man, 5s?
You know it, bro.
For sure. Pops?
Anything to help you 2 out of a pickle jar.
Okay, 3 minutes, everyone. Grab some supplies and meet back at the ship.
Hello, it's shadeX, and I've known GeekTunes for a long while. Currently, I co-host his podcast, Toonheads. I do videos on cartoons. I did one recently on J.G. Quintel's new show, Close Enough. Speaking of J.G. Quintel, he is also the creator of Regular Show. I've watched quite a bit of that series, and I've enjoyed all the episodes I have seen of it. I saw the finale when the show ended, but I was never caught up with the show. Prior to this video, I had not seen the movie, which I heard about and was very interested in. Anyway, GeekTunes told me to review Regular Show the movie. I hadn't seen it before, and after watching it, I really enjoyed it. I really wish I did watch this movie at the time, as Regular Show the movie is great. The film begins in the future with a space battle. Rigby and the supporting characters of the show are on a spaceship. The villain of the film, Mr. Ross, is introduced, who is controlling a tornado, and it is soon revealed that Mordecai is now evil and part cyborg. Mordecai is now evil because Rigby wronged him in the past. Anyway, all the supporting characters get murdered by Mordecai. Rigby then goes on his time-traveling spaceship to go back to the past and stop the terrible events in his timeline from happening. However, Mordecai shoots him. The title screen then flashes, and then we are shown a cool sequence that pays homage to Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where Mordecai and Rigby in the current timeline try to get to work on time. The two nearly get fired for showing up late, but Rigby tricks Benson into thinking that they were late because they got breakfast burritos for him. Soon, future Rigby's spaceship crashes, and it is now up to Mordecai, Rigby, and the rest of the supporting cast from the current timeline to save the day. Anyway, future Rigby fucking dies, but before he dies, he tells them to destroy the time machine, and he tells his past self to tell the truth to Mordecai. What follows is a fun time travel story. It takes place 6 years in the past, when Mordecai and Rigby were in high school. Mordecai, Rigby, and the rest of the gang have the goal of destroying a time machine that Mordecai and Rigby built back in high school. The two built the time machine after Mordecai found out that he didn't get into College U, while Rigby did. This led to an explosion that ended up creating a time-nado. This film is a very funny one. The antagonist of this film, Mr. Ross, is great. He is both funny and threatening. His motivation stems from Rigby interrupting a volleyball game by playing saxophone when his team nearly broke a tie. It is the moment that gives him his motivation for being evil. Anyway, Mordecai and Rigby meet their past selves at a pizza place they frequented throughout high school and get the key to the science lab. They destroy the time machine and the day is saved. Except it isn't. Mr. Ross puts a new time machine in the place of the broken one and the events still happen. This is because Teen Rigby wrote a fake rejection letter to Teen Mordecai after he got rejected from College U. This causes Teen Mordecai to get the motivation to build the time machine. Mordecai does this to convince himself to get better grades. The time-nado gets created and Mr. Ross reveals the truth to current Mordecai, which causes current Rigby to get sad and run away. He takes the time-traveling ship, flies away from his problems, but after getting convinced by Father Time, he flies to Mordecai and apologizes to him. With some teamwork, they end up defeating Mr. Ross and the time-nado ceases to exist. The time machine ends up exploding and blows up the science lab in the past, and Mr. Ross ends up getting arrested. Rigby apologizes to Mr. Ross for interrupting his volleyball game, and he accepts the apology and gives up on his evil revenge plan. The film ends with Mordecai and Rigby reconciling their friendship, and with a funny scene of them ordering fast food with the time ship. Overall, Regular Show the Movie is a funny and charming animated film. The film has two great themes, those being friendship and forgiveness. A lot of great character development for Rigby came from this film. I am surprised I missed out on this film, as it gives a lot of context that is missing from the original show. Like Regular Show, this film pays homage to the 80s and 90s. It's a really fun movie and a great time travel story. Regular Show the Movie is great. Watch it. This has been shadeX, and I hope you feel nothing but good vibes.
We should never forget that.
Dude? Why are you still talking?
I'm simply trying to highlight the lesson we all learned.
No one wants to hear that, man.
Dude, the movie's wrapping up. People are trying to get out of here.
But I need to say my important takeaway message from this experience. You know, something kids can talk to their parents about on the drive home.
Teen Titans Go has always been a series that has been scrutinized by the cartoon community, whether it be a reboot that colossally dumped on its predecessor, or just a show that was a stain on the squeaky clean records of the now nostalgic 2010s era of television. As far as my experience with the series goes, I've always watched it from time to time. Never thought it was anything special, nothing I would watch consistently, that's for sure, but through other reviews, I did get a general consensus around it, which in hindsight was pretty toxic. But needless to say, I had low expectations for the movie when I had it on my list of films to review for this series. Does this movie offer any good merit or value, or is it just the same group of jokes we all love to hate? Well, let's jump into the DCU with Teen Titans Go to the movies. The film kicks off after the Titans battle with a villain named Balloon Man to the tune of a rap song that tells the audience who they are. But instead of the Titans defeating him, it's the Justice League. The Titans then get some truth bombs thrown their way by Superman telling them that they're more like goofsters than heroes. The point is proven further when Robin is left out of a theater after finding out that no one is interested in seeing a movie about him. After the Titans cheer up Robin, they set their sights on making a real Robin movie. The director, Jade Wilson, tells them that they could only have a movie if they had an arch nemesis. And who better than Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke, cueing one of the best action scenes in the film. While not capturing the villain, they do manage to get the studio's approval for a big budget film of their own. But since the Titans are still goofsters, they get kicked off the set, and Robin gets to make the movie all about him. But this turns out to be a plot made by Slade to take over the minds of all the heroes to do his bidding. So it's up to the Titans to stop him. The next few minutes has the Titans in an endless battle with the rest of the heroes. After that, they manage to thwart Slade's plan as well as his giant robot to the tune of the same rap song they had in the beginning of the movie. The film ends with Slade defeated and the Titans being accepted as real heroes. I'll be honest here. I never expected a Teen Titans Go movie to be fun. After years of backlash and criticism against the show, the creators managed to make not just a good movie, but a good experience. The songs are fun to listen to, even if out of place. And I did enjoy the movie taking on different art styles in certain areas. And believe me, the action, despite lacking in the show, is prevalent here. Despite it sounding completely insane, Teen Titans Go to the Movies is good for both fans of the series and even fans of the original Teen Titans series. There's something here for everyone. Well, that was an entertaining flick. What's next?
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit!
Oh god, not this again.
You wanna attack me? Just admit it. Or better yet, just try it.
No!
Why not?
Because that's not the truth!
I gotta prefix this by saying I absolutely adore Steven Universe. Its world and characters, along with its overall storytelling, have immersed me in this series so much. So in the summer of 2019, I was excited to see the teaser for its own feature film releasing later that same year. But now, more than a year later, along with its ending, does this film still hold up after all this time later? Well, let's get our gemstones out as we cover Steven Universe, the movie. The film begins with a pretty neat looking storybook-esque intro detailing or recapping the events of the past 5 seasons of the show, before we see our now 16-year-old protagonist Steven as he returns home to see his friend Connie off to space camp. After that, he meets up with the Crystal Gems to the tune of Happily Ever After, the movie's first musical number. Not too far into the movie, we see a massive drill-like ship driven by a gem named Spinel who manages to poof all the Crystal Gems and negate Steven's powers with a weapon called a Rejuvenator, a weapon that returns gems back to their original forms, a kind of factory reset if you will. Throughout the rest of the film, Steven brings the gems back to their normal selves by helping them regain their memories. But unfortunately, they also awaken Spinel's evil half, and through a misunderstanding, she attempts to destroy the planet once and for all. That doesn't seem good with Steven, as he fights Spinel while also trying to convince her that he isn't her enemy. The final few minutes of the film has Spinel realizing the error of her ways and Beach City going back to normal, ending the film with a Broadway-style musical finale in the end. Now this would be where I would give you my thoughts on the movie as a whole, but in an attempt to switch things up, I brought a very special guest, introducing the one and only Phantomstrider.
Howdy Geektoons, thanks for asking my opinion on this. So I watched the Steven Universe movie a couple of days ago, and even though it's been out for ages, because honestly, I lost my interest in the show around mid-season 5. It's been a very enlightening experience over the last 5 years, because I've gone from loving this show and considering it my favorite modern cartoon, to really being angry at some of the new episodes and some of the philosophies it pushes, some of the messages and writing Rebecca Sugar has done, and some of the way she's turned concepts around, like fusion. I used to think that was a metaphor for something much more intimate than just being friends. And it was, but then it was changed around. And the entire idea of the Diamonds starting as genocidal maniacs who destroyed planets to just having a misunderstanding with their sister that just needed to be understood and explained to them. I mean, by the movie, they are so cringeworthy. Like, I think it's important children know that bad people do exist that cannot be reasoned with. I think this is an important message for some adults, yet alone just children. Steven Universe ended up with such a kindergarten philosophy by the 5th season when I thought it was going to be so sharp and clever and nuanced with its messages and its psychology. Anyway, my personal complaints aside, what about the movie? This is kinda sorta a musical movie, and I admit I'm not the biggest musical fan. I mean, I like Pirates of Penzance and The Hobbit, but I admit I don't go out of my way to see musicals. But I felt something so pretentious about this movie. It's just so proud of itself. Like everyone, I really enjoyed Spinel, and she was probably my favorite part of the movie, purely in her animation. While I feel a lot of the Steven Universe animation has actually started to look choppier and lazier since about season 2 or 3, her 1920s style animation is really interesting, reminding me a lot of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit and Mickey Mouse and Felix the Cat. Like just about all Steven Universe villains, Spinel's very relatable and understandable in her frustration and anger and why she's lashing out. In fact, perhaps Rebecca Sugar's ultimate task is to make us see Rose as the villain, and if that's what she wanted to do, then mission accomplished. It's hard not to feel bad for Spinel as we just see her waiting, just drifting away, as she says. The ability to empathize with the characters of Steven Universe is probably the strongest part of the series, and I like that no matter how topsy-turvy the writing gets, we can still have that in the characters and appreciate that. It's hard for me to fully put my finger on what annoyed me so much about this movie, but I think part of it was the oversaturated colors. While I really enjoyed the mellower, more demure color scheme of the original Steven Universe series, for some reason the movie felt just so loud. This might be the fact that it was trying to be a musical, where people do need to be louder so they can be seen by the audience in the far rows. Also, it'll look good in a trailer and a YouTube thumbnail, I'm not quite sure. All the voice actors do a fine job as always, and it's nice to see Steven at 16 now and see that he's grown up throughout the series. This is a movie I honestly didn't look at any reviews for, or have any idea what other people thought for it. Apart from me getting the impression people like the Other Friends song, I really had no idea. But honestly, I just can't stand the wishy-washy story and writing anymore. The big question to me is, over 5 years, did I change or did Steven Universe change? I think a little bit of both, but I'm really not quite sure. Either way, I certainly understand if you did really enjoy this, and if it's your thing, good for you. GeekToons, thanks for asking my opinion on the Steven Universe movie. Back to you.
Thanks, Strider. And while I do respect your opinion, I really actually do like the movie. The songs are a treat to listen to. The animation, to me at least, is really clean and smooth, and the voice acting impressive as always. Although, in my humble opinion, I do believe that the movie should have been an end to the series. Don't get me wrong, I love the end to Steven's story in future. But at the time, it did seem like the perfect ending to Steven's arc as a hero. Ending it not with a whimper, but with a bang. All in all, Steven Universe the movie is a perfectly good series to film adaptation that's worth rewatching to this day.
And the sickest, most disturbing thing these bears do? They stack.
What's wrong with that?
We Bare Bears, I felt, has always been a series that, although seems simple on the surface, had a deeper meaning that most fans don't really seem to be commenting on. Throughout its multi-season run, it shows many examples of both what it's like and how it feels to be an outsider. But it doesn't present being an outsider as being toxic, but rather as extremely positive to society. But the movie brings us a different situation. What would happen if authority tried to push you out of society solely based on what you are rather than who you are? Well, let's talk about it. This is We Bare Bears, the movie. After a pretty good opening featuring the baby bears, the movie kicks off with the bears running late to the grand opening of Le Bon Poutine. While on the way there, they manage to cause multiple citizens harm. It's at this moment of the film where the bears discover that they were doing more harm than good. In an attempt to have more people accept them, they stream the most viral video in history, which causes a blackout to the whole city. The next scene shows the outraged town demanding that the bears pay for their actions, which makes way for the introduction of the antagonist of the film, Agent Trout, who convinces the townspeople to lock up the bears in a bear reserve. So the bears are put away in a SWAT van, but are rescued by Charlie, a recurring character in the series, and the group decide that they could start a new life in Canada. With a disguised SWAT van, they drive across multiple locations, including a viral animal convention and an industrial factory. And while they do manage to make it to their goal, they're stopped at the gate for not having passports. Things look dire for the trio when Trot surrounds them and locks them up with the intention of shipping them back to where they came from. But thankfully, Grizz rallies up the other wild bears in the reserve to save both Ice Bear and Panda. With the bears escaping a wildfire, the film ends with the trio returning home, ending the series with what the bears always do, being themselves. Personally, I feel like the movie acts as a great send-off to this type of series. Although I do like it, it does have its fair share of issues, one being that the villain is very unrefined in my opinion. He kinda just shows up out of nowhere with no prior history with the bears, making him very one-note in my eyes. Another problem the movie has is most of the secondary cast gets the shaft for most of the runtime. They show up here and there throughout the film, but don't play a bigger role otherwise. But ignoring those flaws, you're left with an although bare bones, fun-filled adventure that keeps the core philosophies of the series intact with it.
Having a movie is the only way to be seen as a real hero.
No, I didn't realize that the show was over. I didn't realize that the show was over. No, I didn't realize that the show was over. No, I didn't realize that I was wrong. Didn't realize that the show was over.
Well, my friends, this seems to be the end of our journey. Thank you all so much for joining me these past few weeks to talk about a topic that I honestly do care about. Many of these films do hold a special place in my heart, and revisiting them took me back to when I was young and excited to see them. And I'm glad you all very much seem to share the same mentality. I want to lend a massive thanks to all the creative individuals who helped me in this series. Without them, there's a chance that these videos wouldn't be as well received. So all of their social media platforms will be left in the description down below. And finally, I want to thank you people, the audience, for watching these videos and taking me out of a place of doubt in my content. I never thought that anyone would be watching these videos in the first place, but here we are. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.